Today I will be reviewing Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. First and foremost, brilliant play. William Shakespeare really was out there with it, I guess. One of the things I never noticed when I first read this was that Romeo and Juliet both were someone else's someone else. And what I mean is Romeo was with a girl named Rosaline who she wasn't introduced into the play. She was only mentioned. She was just kind of away. But Juliet was to be married to a guy named Paris. It was more of an arranged wedding, not that she was in love with him. And Romeo wasn't really in love with Rosaline either, because he just what happens before he ever even meets Juliet. But when Juliet and Romeo, they meet at the masquerade ball, which was held by the Capulet family, and Romeo disguised himself, and he saw Juliet and instantly was in love with her. She was the most beautiful thing that he had ever seen, and was just instantly hooked. And then the same thing goes for Juliet. She loved him, but was kind of cautious of him because he was a Montague. And the Montagues and the Capulets are feuding families, and they're supposed to hate each other, but they just don't. And immediately after this masquerade, it goes into the famous balcony scene where Juliet is talking to herself about how much she loves Romeo. And then, Romeo overhears this, and he climbs up a tree. And then he's also confessing his love to her, but he's more straightforward with her about it. And he's telling her face to face, whereas she was only talking to herself to begin with. But and then what they're really talking about in this scene is getting married. And they go and get hitched. They go and see Friar Lawrence. They get married. There's only two people who really know about Romeo and Juliet and their marriage and them being in love with each other was Juliet's nurse and Friar Lawrence. But anyway, a little bit later on, Tybalt, he absolutely hates anything to do with the Montagues, and he picks a fight with Romeo and calls him a villain and provokes him, taunts him, does whatever just to get his attention so they could fight. Romeo, he's not interested in fighting with him because Tybalt doesn't know Romeo, and that's what Romeo tells him, that he shouldn't be provoking him because of the fact that he just doesn't know him. But Tybalt doesn't care. Tybalt hates him. And so he and Mercutio, which is Romeo's best friend, get into a fight. Tybalt kills Mercutio, and Mercutio tells both of these people, I put a plague on your house, or both houses are plagued, or, just the whole thing with that, which I guess is foreshadowing. There's also another foreshadowing too, which is where Romeo has a dream that Juliet finds him dead. But Romeo seeks revenge on Tybalt, kills Tybalt, and then he has to run away because the Capulet family want him dead. So he's banished from Verona, and if he ever returns and is caught, they'll kill him, which puts a strain on his and Juliet's relationship. And when Juliet finds out that Romeo had murdered Tybalt, which is her cousin, she feels like he deceived her and that he wasn't really in love with her. But then she's like, no, he really loves me, and she was more crying about Romeo than she was Tybalt. But her family are none the wiser and thinks that she's crying over Tybalt's death. But her father tells her that she is to marry Paris on a Thursday, and she declines that, and she does not want to marry Paris because she's already married to Romeo, but she can't tell her family that. And so her dad's like going ballistic and says, you're a wretch, you shall be hanged, or you shall be banished, or whatever. And she doesn't really want to be neglected from her family, and so she comes up with a plan with the friar, who concocts this potion, gives it to her, and it's supposed to help her feign her death. And when she gets home, she's thinking about it. She's like, what if the friar is trying to poison me? I mean, how do I know that I can really trust him? And then she starts having this the fears of waking up inside of a tomb with like all these dead people, which is pretty creepy. But nevertheless, she does swallow this potion. She does fall into a deep sleep. She gets put into a coma. Her body becomes stiff. Her breathing decreases, and her lips and everything about her just grow pale. All the color just leaves her body, and she looks dead. And so the nurse finds her. Then Lady Capulet comes in. Paris sees this. It's just a great big ordeal, and they put her to rest. But Friar Lawrence had originally written Romeo a letter, and this letter was a return to sender. It never made it to Romeo. It only made its way back to Friar Lawrence. So Balthazar, which was Romeo's eyes and ears in Verona, tells Romeo that Juliet is dead. So Romeo makes his way back to Verona, but he makes one pit stop to an apothecary and buys poison. He then makes his way to Verona, where he and Paris fight, and he kills Paris, and then opens up Juliet's tomb, sees her, kisses her, and then takes the potion and dies. Not 5 minutes after this had happened, Juliet wakes up, sees Romeo, and then she kisses him, I guess trying to get the poison off of his lips to either save his life or to kill herself with it. I don't know. But she wants to die very quickly, so she grabs his dagger, stabs herself in the abdomen, and just dies. And then the Capulet family, they see this, they want to know what happened, so the Friar Lawrence tells them the entire story, and then they read a letter that was written by Romeo, which says the same exact stuff that Friar Lawrence had described to the Capulet family. So they believe it. And then the Montague family gets with the Capulet family, and I guess it's implied that they kind of make amends with everything that happened because Romeo and Juliet were in love with each other and they were married. And so they come up with this idea to create statues out of Romeo and Juliet, and they place it up in the town, and that's really it for the story. It is just a brilliant story. I absolutely love it. I hold it in high regard, and I recommend it. And if you are just coming into the Shakespearean world of his work, I would suggest starting with Romeo and Juliet because it's easier to understand, although it's more of a love story than it is action or whatever like Hamlet or Macbeth is composed of. I mean, it's not as dark as Hamlet, Macbeth, but it is what it is, and it's a great story. I definitely rate this 6 out of 5 stars. It was just brilliant, and I loved it. It's my favorite by him. Of course, I haven't read very many by him, but still, I liked it. And that's it for my review. Rate, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.